Hello and welcome to my organ lessons, a new series dedicated to helping you master great organ works. And we're going to begin today with one of the most famous, Widor's Toccata. This video accompanies the sheet music, which will be available from my website on the screen now, and see the link below. With this sheet music, you get the complete score edited by me, the one I use in concert with all the fingerings and pedalings. You also get a second blank score to add your own fingerings and pedalings, as well as the complete lesson, all the technical exercises, some blank manuscript to write your own exercises, as well as many tips and other things as well on registration and performance. But this video gives you the basic outline of what we need to cover to play Widor's Toccata. When you approach this piece, you're going for the big Widor Toccata sound. But how do we get there? Whether you're playing it for the first time, whether you've been playing it for years, whether you need to play it, have to play it, like it or not, there's very little chance you're going to escape playing this piece of music. You might always approach the same points and make a mistake. You may get tired. So I'm going to cover that as if I'm learning it for the first time, all the techniques and the registrations and the performance. It might jump backwards and forwards slightly because it's all related to the final performance, but I'm going to go through the music in order from the beginning. And we'll start with the very basic figuration. It's this. Essentially, that's a five-finger exercise. I normally do this at the piano because the piano has an expression and a reaction to the touch. On the organ, whether you're playing on an electric action, which is very light, or a mechanical action, which is very heavy, no matter how hard you hit a note on the organ, it never goes any louder or quieter. And so you want to have that feeling of expression as well. The piano also gives you a little bit more weight. I always begin my practice at the piano, warming up with a variety of scales and arpeggios, with a variety of touches and articulations in octaves, thirds and sixths as a variety of speeds. Use the metronome to gradually increase the speed of your playing until you reach the desired tempo. I also do the same when I warm up at the organ. I'm going to start with a very simple five-finger exercise. In the first instance, just use your fingers only. And then we'll play again using the wrist. So you're using it from the wrist and not so much the fingers, then from the arm. Now these three techniques are very important. If you've got a heavy action, you need to bring your arm into play, leading up to your back and your shoulders. You'll need this higher weight. On a light action, it's more fingers and wrist, but as soon as it gets heavy, you need to bring in your arms, wrists and upper shoulders a little bit more as well for the weight. It's also a way of stopping you getting tired. As your fingers get tired, or your wrists or your arms, you can move to another. The main thing to remember is you must always stay relaxed. Even when you play it with just your fingers, the wrist is just as loose as if you're just placed there on the keyboard. A lot of the techniques I'm talking about today and the basics of seating and how you position yourself are contained in my earlier books, How to Play the Organ, books 1 and 2. So go and look at those as well for basic background information as well. Once we've covered this very basic five-finger exercise, which keeps the fingers together, you'll notice at the beginning of the Widor, it's actually a spread chord, so we've got intervals. So we can do another exercise in thirds. Again, do them all in three different ways. Firstly, legato, then staccato, and then tenuto, so half length. They're the three articulations which are very important in this piece. Always remember that though, when you're playing staccato or a gap between notes, it's not how you push the note down, it's how you release. That's not a staccato because it's long. To play staccato, still play the note, but then release it sooner. So it's not how you attack the note, it's how you release the note. Very important at the opening of this piece. We then get into the second spacing of this, arpeggiation. This then brings in a lateral movement of the wrist. So at the beginning, it's that spacing. So you're moving your wrist now laterally You don't want to space your fingers stiffly. You want to have a little flow. This is more important because you're going to be using your fourth finger at the same time and it won't quite reach. So I've given you an arpeggio exercise, which I'll show you. All exercises are written in C major and you can transpose them through all keys using the transposition charts provided. They can be played in similar motion or contrary motion so the hands mirror each other and can be played hands together or separate. This can also be played with the hands crossed. We'll then bring into the next element which makes the opening phrase slightly tricky, this fourth finger. So we'll do this exercise. Only practice at a speed where you can control the fingers perfectly. Use a metronome to keep yourself in time. Finally, you have the lateral movement of the fingers in the hand. This action whereby the fingers move sideways within this octave space. You can do this with one note held, or you could do two. Just be careful. If you feel tired or anything like that, take a break. When I practice, I've been playing for many, many years, so I may practice for several hours in a day. But every 20 minutes or so, change the pieces you're playing. Go to another piece which is much more gentle, with less stretching or less strenuous. Take a walk around. Just take a little break and come back to it, and you'll feel refreshed. And you'll always get the best out of your practice, really, then as well, physically and mentally. The next is the left-hand figure. It's a chord. It's also repeating. This is in octave technique, really. An octave technique is very similar. You have three elements you use in octave and chord technique. We have the fingers, we have the wrist, just playing from the wrist, and we have the elbow, lower arm. In all these exercises, play from the key. Approaching the key from higher up will make no difference whatsoever. When you see someone in a strongman competition or something like that trying to push an articulated lorry, they don't run up to it and try and make it move. They'll just splat into the back of it. They actually approach it, touching it already, and then push. You get the maximum control and the maximum force you need, and the most efficiency and minimum of effort. So in this exercise, play octaves first of all, then using the wrist, then the arm. There you go. Don't hit, always approach and try and touch on the key softly as you approach. All three of those come into play then. Try playing whilst moving your wrist and your fingers, so all three are there to provide relaxation and also help your stamina as well. This is then related to chords. Same thing, try and use your fingers, then your wrist, then your arm, and then all three, whilst moving up and down, keeping your wrist relaxed and loose. Then with one note held, and then the opposite way, and then different rhythms. Now the important thing about the rhythm in Widor is this. You need to use that wrist arm motion as a little rolling forward motion. You're using that motion and keep it completely loose. So if we put these two ideas together now, so slowly, the important thing about the right hand is in Widor's score, he marks the first two notes slurred in later editions and the rest of the notes staccato. So we've included all these so far for slur. In the left hand, the long note gives an accent. So if we put those together, in slow motion, that's what we're playing. So if you play it quick, that's what we want to hear in slow motion. That's the basic manual part for the very, very opening. If you're playing, say, a French organ, where the bottom manual is the grand orgue, that will be your main great manual with the louder sounds where you're playing this piece. If you're on a more English-American organ, the second manual will be the great. So you'll probably practice them on the manual that you're going to be playing these on. This organ is a big mechanical instrument, so everything is mechanical here. But I practice some very clear sounds, either a very clear 8-foot If it's not clear enough, try a gapped registration, an 8 and a 2. To give that precision which you don't get unless you're at a piano. The same on the great, but sometimes it's very, very far away. And again, if you're playing on the pedal, try coupling it through instead. So if I want clarity in the pedal, use the manual stop coupled through rather than trying to play on some pedal stops which are too low, and keep to 8-foot stops really in the pedal. We then approach where the pedal comes in. The important thing about the pedal is when you begin playing this piece, make sure before you begin you know where the first 2-octave gap is on the pedal, because you're playing this manual part as you come in, but you don't want to suddenly have to move. You'll hit wrong notes and catch things. Make sure you're in a seated position where you're in the correct place for wherever you're playing the opening toccata, but you can also play quite comfortably. And then in that opening introduction, you might just want to wait. Your foot might have a rest up here, you might have a rest on the back here, however you're comfortable. But as you approach, you've always got to remember you're going to have to get your feet ready to approach that point there. Speaking of which, before we get to that, there's a little cheat I've put in. This is one of the famous moments. If you can't stretch a 10th, I've included you can play it with your right hand, or you could cheat and just play, put the E into the left hand or miss it out completely. They're all contained in the score. We arrive at this now, the pedal, a leaping between the feet. Begin by playing just an octave scale, just with the toes. You're allowed a gap between notes. You can take that all the way to the top of the pedal board, both feet, opposite directions as well. The next part of this is then that you're going to have to play in octaves. Now remember, when you're doing that exercise, always be over the next note early. Over the note, over the note. If you're not over the note, you're going to miss it. Same with the left foot really, we'll do that exercise as well. Etc. Now, you need to do this in octaves, really. Then we need it in broken octaves, not at the same time. So as you're playing the next note, your last foot is moving to the next note. Right foot moves, left foot moves, right foot moves. Always moving. So this gives us the very opening of the Widor in the rhythm. The important thing is that the left foot is legato to the right foot. So slur up. Slur up. I mean, that note needs a lot of time to speak. The top note will be loud because it's brighter and higher, but the bass needs time to speak, so make sure you hold it for long enough. So let's put all these elements together. The most important thing with this is rhythm. Widor said rhythm, above all, was one of the most important things in music. He said if anyone had rhythm which was only passable, it was a criminal act. He said rhythm should be like a steam locomotive, completely regular and unswerving with great weight. But to make the organ musical, we need breaths, articulation and spaces to make it come to life. Otherwise, Widor said the music becomes a macaroni cheese. So we don't want this blob of macaroni cheese. We need articulation, and we need in the left hand this accent in the first note. So you put them together, and then we need to feel this bar of 4, whether you're feeling it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Or if you're trying to feel a whole bar of 1 to there, whole bars. It's like throwing a ball in the air and catching it, depending on how hard you throw it. You're trying to feel that bounce of the whole bar. If we then add the pedal as well, as we approach the pedal entry, when practicing, I find it helpful to start at the end of a page or section and work backwards.
Start with the last bar of a page or section, right hand only, then left hand only, then pedal only, then hands together, then right hand and pedal, then left hand and pedal, and then all three together. Then move to the bar before, so you're always working towards music you've already played. Keep a notebook handy to note speeds or pages you have practiced, so you can gradually build up the piece and tempo in each practice session.
All the exercises I've given you are all going to be in mirror image. I've given them all in the book. So as we approach the centre, where the left hand takes over this figure, you will have already been doing the exercises with your hands in opposite directions. Now, we have a manual change in the middle where we go up to the reci or the swell, and then we have some finger substitution in the left hand. So we have an exercise. It's 4 and 5 need to change on the same note, silently. To 5. There's also this one. As we get to the big recap, the right hand stays the same. The left hand now has an extra note held. So the exercises I gave you earlier also cover that as well. But now the pedal is in octaves. You could just do it in normal octaves. Toe, heel, toe, heel. I prefer, especially if you've got a heavy organ and you want to stay grounded and not feel like you're falling off the keyboards, toe, heel on the same note, toe on the next note, then heel on the next note, toe, heel, toe, heel. In the second phrase of that, you land on a low C and immediately have to go to an octave higher. So I've given you an octave exercise. Firstly, get there through arpeggios. Always arriving at the note. And then feel where this is. You might want to hold one and feel where the left foot goes. The other option is this. Don't look at the pedals at all. Look straight ahead. Play the octave. Find the next one. And back down again. Don't cheat and look. Do it through feeling, and that's a great way of doing this. It comes again. Before that, though, we have this very awkward hand crossing section. Now, on a French organ, the bottom manual will be the grand orgue, as I was saying, and then the next keyboard up would usually be the positive, in which case your left hand would go onto the positive, as indicated by Widor. On English American-style organs, you'll be playing on the great, the second manual, which means the third next manual up is the swell, which won't be loud enough, so you might have to play the left hand crossed over onto the great. Your left hand's going to come over this way, and it's this phrase. So the things you're going to remember with this is, those two fingers stay in the same place, but these. The temptation is, of course, to lean over. So while you're practicing this, your hand is normally there, in that phrase there. So keep a chord held or something in the right hand, and this. At the same time, the pedal is usually either here or here. So keep your feet grounded as well. A chord in the right hand, and now. Just be careful, make sure you get your hand far enough round. You will have to lean slightly, but not too far that you'll lose your balance. So let's bring all the elements together to create the performance and interpretation now. The great thing about this is it uses full organ. Widor didn't specify particular stops. The system he used on a cavaillé organ had specific effects and sounds and methods which you used. And to change stops, you might have thumb pistons to do the diminuendo and back up. You might have hitch down levers like you have on a cavaillé to take the ventals off. We'll just give you a general idea of what you can do. Start with the swell reci manual, which is the stops over here on this organ. Full would be all the 16, 8s, 4s, mixtures, and the reeds and cornets. So if we start with that, always play as you listen to the sound, bring all the stops on, start with 8s maybe, flutes, principals, building up 8, 4, 2, have the 16 as well. Bring in the cornet, the reeds, 16, 8, 4, with the mixture. So that's going to be our swell sound, which will then couple down to the great manual. The important thing to mention at this point regarding French organs and French organ sound is the cornet, this stop. A composite stop, usually 5 notes, 5 pipes, all speaking at once at various pitches. The individual pitches are 8, 4, a 12th, a 2-foot, and then the 1 3/5, and they all speak on one stop. Now, to take these separately, say on a positive manual, 8-foot, 4-foot flute, 2 2/3, 2-foot flute, and a TS, 1 3/5, and that creates. And the point of that stop is that on French organs, the trumpet stops get quite weak towards the top. So this cornet makes them brighter towards the top and gives you more power, a great feature of Cavaillé-Coll's organs. So once we've got our full swell and we're coupling it down to the great, we then build up full swell, then build it up 8, 16, 4, 2 2/3. We'll add the 16, 8, 4 reeds, 2-foot, mixture, and the cornet. And that's essentially giving us our sound. You can also couple up, say, the positive as well. You could add the chromorne maybe. 8, 4, 2. You could add the mixture, but maybe you want to save something for the very final part, the triple forte right at the very end. We couple all 3 of these, or 2 of these, if you're just using great and swell, through now to the pedal. So if we couple those 2 to the pedal, we're already there with that. Then separately, we add everything. We'll add the 32-foot flue, 16-foot principals and big flute as well. The 4-foot and the 8-foots, we'll add the mixture. And then we'll add the reeds, 16 and 8, and 32-foot if you've got one. You can also add any quints, 10 2/3, 5 1/3 to enhance the 8-foot, 16-foot, 32-foot pitches, and that gives you this. So we've now got this sound. So that's our beginning sound. And now you've got this big sound, we can really concentrate on the very opening phrase. You want this weight of dam bam, da da dam dam. And you can see I'm bringing that left hand action, that rolling action into play, because this action is mechanical and quite heavy. I'm using lateral movement with the right hand and arm movement to get the weight behind it, as if I'm playing staccato loud on a piano. And then the pedal, when it's legato from top to bottom. And that gives you that sound. And when we get to the central section, we're going to gradually get quieter, which means using the swell box in the slightly earlier part. Sections such as the swell or the réci are enclosed in a big expressive box, a wooden box with all the pipes inside, with louvered shutters on the front. And as I close the pedal, it closes it and makes the sound go quieter. And as I open it, it opens the shutters and makes the sound go louder. And we can use it in this piece in the following ways. That's just to give you a little bit of shading to enhance the bar lines and a little bit of shape within the piece. But the big diminuendo firstly starts with taking some stops off. Now on most organs you'll be able to do this yourself. It might be with thumb pistons, it might be with toe pistons, or as I've said, ventils on a big Cavaillé-Coll French style organ. Widor's system dictated that when you took stops off, you would always take off the jeu de combination, basically the reeds, and that would take off mixtures, cornets, all of the big reeds, the trumpets, not the oboes and vox humanas, things like that, and then any higher stuff sometimes, 2 foots maybe. So if I just go from this section and take off those stops, that's what it would sound like. So I've programmed that onto a button, but you might have a thumb piston which does it. Take them off, the positive, choir and the great, so you're left with just the great with 16, 8, 4 flues, swell still on full, and the pedal is also reduced down to just flues and takes all the big reeds off as well. At the same time, once you've done that, you will then need to close the swell box to bring this down to its piano. So we've got that sound. Bring it down to piano, and then to pianissimo. So we're closed then when we're on that manual on the top. In bars 37 to 38, I like to just give a little bit of the swell box opening and closing to give this harmony a bit of shape. And open. Just to give a little bit of shape, but then the big crescendo happens a couple of bars later when you've got your fingering and substitution in the left hand. It's a long way. Mezzo forte. Open. Get it open by the time you go back to that pedal moment there. As we're approaching this next part, you want to now bring on more stops. Widor doesn't dictate where to add or take away stops, so you can do it in one big addition really, but I prefer to add it a bit by bit with a first addition. Here. And again. So we arrive at full organ at that point. You also notice we've got the changes of manuals. We've also gone up to the Reci. Widor doesn't mark where to come down in the score. I do it in bar 47. I think that's the best moment. Make sure you get there early before you play. Make sure you're over the notes. So this is the big moment. If you're on a big mechanical action, you'll feel you might need to lean forward slightly to play with such a lot of weight on a heavy, heavy mechanical action. It really gives you a bit more weight to be a little bit more over the keys, and that's where holding those notes on the pedal and changing on each toe heel gives you that bit of grounding to sit over it. A couple of tricky moments towards the end, very, very famously. The big jump. It's quite a long way. What you'll find is you need to lean ever so slightly. Your hand normally has been playing at this here, but to get to this chord here, it needs to turn slightly, but then your thumb is nowhere near the notes. You need to be here. So to get that note, your elbow's going to come in, your body's going to move to the right. So if you watch in slow motion, allow the time and make sure you're over the notes before you play them. Once again, the ventil would then come off to reduce the sound. All the reeds off, cornets, mixtures once again. So, and close the box again, gradually. Feet in the right place. Feet stay there. Now you've got to change octaves. There's an exercise for this. As I did earlier with the octave jump, now we're in broken octaves. Same thing again, start on a C. Go chromatically. Try doing this without looking, and so that when you get to this point in the piece, it's very, very awkward. You might want to move the right foot first, the left foot, see how you feel. Your hands are crossed, you're already at this octave here. I've moved already. As you saw, left foot down to the bottom F, right foot down to the bottom F as well. Same when it goes back up again in a couple of bars later on a single F, where you need to get from middle F to the high F. Now you could put your left foot in the middle and move the right, but then you're going to unbalance your whole body while your left hand is over. So it's a little bit easier if you do it this way. Right foot moves. Left foot on the swell pedal. There you go. So your left foot needs to be on the swell pedal. You could then swap again. Some organs, the pedal might be mechanical and be far over to one side, which you'll have to just adapt as you go. The very end has one final thing on the chords. Use your thumb. don't forget to count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything has a reason for being the way it's written. Every note, every phrase. Widor was very specific on that. I hope that's helped you give you some ideas of how to practice this, how to play it, how to master some of the technical difficulties, and also register it on the instrument you'll be playing it. Speed-wise, you can choose whatever you want, really. Widor produced a couple of different metronome marks in his lifetime. His own performance, you'll find, is about this speed. Which you can make work. If it's in a big 10-second, 8-second acoustic, you've got to remember when Widor played this, he was in his late 80s and he was recorded fairly close and dry in a big acoustic. You can play it quite quickly though, but as long as it has that weight, majesty, and you can play all the notes. So I hope that was helpful to you in learning to play this piece. I'll leave the final interpretation to you. The music is available as a digital PDF from my website. See the link below and the website address in this video from the scores page. And I hope it's been helpful to you. Please give it a like as well. And also, if you've got any ideas of pieces you would like to hear from again, another piece maybe you want me to give a lesson on, please let me know, and any questions. I'd love to hear from you, and leave them in the comments below this video. So the only thing I can think of doing now is giving you a complete performance, employing everything I've mentioned today here at the amazing organ of the Bridgewater Hall in Manchester. This is Widor's Toccata. you.